I have been your member of provincial parliament for the past 19 years. I'll be joined by a number of panelists today that will provide you with information, some questions you may want to ask, and an overall feeling of what we are up against here as the City of Ottawa is proposing to put a Sprung Shelter or a tent city into our community without any consultation. I just want to introduce them. I'll say a few words and then we will get started. I am joined today by Ontario's Minister responsible for immigration, a former Ottawa resident and somebody who has been at the national tables with the immigration ministers of Canada, as well as around the country. The Honourable David Piccini is here. He'll be addressing the webinar. I'm joined by Jason MacDonald, who is a Barrhaven resident, a Barrhaven business owner, and a member of the Barrhaven BIA, and Jagdeep Prahar, who's also a realtor. From many people know him in the community as a great organizer, a member of the Indo-Canadian community, a realtor, and a father. In fact, I rented a space from him before for an office. Another member of our community, Yilong Ma, very involved with the Chinese community, also a realtor. So there's a bit of a theme here about the housing crisis and how we're making sure that that's addressed. And finally, Kyla Martin. Kyla is a chartered accountant, a lifelong Barrhaven resident, and I want to congratulate her. She is a brand new mother. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've now reached our critical mass. I'm excited again, Lisa MacLeod. For the past 19 years, I have been your member of provincial parliament. I have had the privilege and the honor to be your voice at Queen's Park, never the other way around. And as a result, have been able to secure numerous brand new schools, healthcare resources, childcare resources, bringing in more social services. I've worked with mosques, synagogues, and temples, as well as churches, in order to see them get built and bring in a greater community. I have worked hard with all of the communities as we have developed our Barrhaven community and neighborhoods. As a result of the explosive growth, we have been able to, with many people at City Hall and other levels of government, manage that explosive growth. We are a community where neighbors help neighbors. I've been involved, as many of the panelists have, with the Barrhaven Food Cupboard, with many of the service clubs, as well as our Legion, which we all helped together build and see come to fruition. And again, this has all been done in a planned way. What I think is concerning to many of us in our community is that this Sprung Shelter tent city of about 150 migrant males between the ages of 17 and above will be located and situated in communities where there are substantial students, there are substantial businesses, and a number of childcares. And so without any provincial or federal input, or without the input of our constituents, this has been concerning because, as I've mentioned, as we plan our community, we have done so with great degrees of consultation. It seems right now the City of Ottawa is more concerned with bike lanes downtown than they are with a tent city in Barrhaven. That concerns me because, again, that makes it more difficult for people to get downtown to get to the critical services that are required. And again, it just seems like a critical divide between what the priorities are downtown compared to what the priorities are of our constituents. As I mentioned, I know that as former immigration minister, and David will speak to the current circumstances, when I was immigration minister of the province of Ontario, we knew that the federal system was broken. There were many people crossing, many of whom were going to be deported within a 2-year period because of the broken IRCC issues. We do know that if this process goes through, there will be people who will not be allowed to stay in our community as a result of that. But David will also likely, or Minister Piccini will also likely want to talk about the pressures that we have on our healthcare, education, and social services, as well as reskilling. When I had been the minister, it was $200 million pressures each year. I know David probably has a much higher number. I think the Premier put it more in the billion-dollar level each year of this situation. So we do have a stake in what's happening. And I think it's really important that we continue to push out our demand for transparency and accountability. I never in my life thought that I would have to be Ottawa's voice at City Hall and not the other way around. And that's, I think, something that's happening. And I'll close on this before I ask Minister Piccini to speak up. You know, we are aware that there are 2 sites being considered in Barrhaven, but that would be a very a difficult situation in the sense that the Barrhaven locations would have to require temporary structures for a long period of time, where in Orleans and in Kilbourne, in the other parts of the city, in Orleans and in Ottawa South, there are already structures that could be retrofitted on much larger parcels of land. So we really want to know why Barrhaven, who's coming, how long, how can we reskill them, how do we support them, and why are these other sites that look to be more sustainable for a situation like this not being considered? So again, very disappointed that we are at this stage, that the only consultation that has happened with the public is this consultation right now. And I'm pleased that I can now turn it over to Ontario's Minister responsible for Immigration and Refugee Resettlement, the Honourable David Piccini, and former resident of the City of Ottawa. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and Lisa for your leadership. As Lisa mentioned, no stranger to Ottawa. Actually grew up slicing deli meats down at La Bottega in the Byward Market to help pay my way through school. Went to University of Ottawa and worked for the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada in Ottawa, so I'm very familiar with the community. Also, never really wanted to be a politician. I was hoping to be a soccer player, so played a lot at Ben Franklin Dome as well in my time. So I appreciate the opportunity to join you and Lisa for your friendship and leadership on this. She's no stranger on the file as well, with both of us having the opportunity to lead this file. So as was mentioned, I'm Ontario's Minister of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development. I will clarify, refugee resettlement is responsibility of the federal government. We provincially engage with the federal government as it pertains to our provincial nominee program, our tool to bring in skilled economic migrants into Ontario. I'll just start by saying, first and foremost, this is the first time in a meaningful and substantive way that we have been asked, my ministry, to engage on this. So kudos to you, Lisa. Thank you to you and the community for reaching out to talk about this. I'll just start by setting the context. Canada is a signatory to the 1951 Convention on the Status of Refugees, which means we have a duty to hear out an individual's right to claim asylum, and that goes to a federal board where that decision is made. I can share the context in Ontario. Ontario at the national table has voiced our concerns over the challenges that we are seeing as it pertains to our settlement agencies, our social services, our healthcare system, and our education system. To put it into context, at no point in our modern history have we seen the number of asylum seekers that we are seeing today. In some regions of Ontario, upwards of 70% of their social service capacity and shelter capacity are occupied by asylum seekers. Ontario spends approximately $1 billion a year of exclusively provincial dollars. There's no flow through federal transfers involved on helping support asylum seekers. That billion is broken into healthcare costs, social service costs, transfers through to our municipal partners, and about $500 billion on social service, which is a culmination of Ontario Works and ODSP. We have long called for the federal government to assist Ontario with those dollars. To date, they have invested approximately just shy of $1 billion into Quebec, but have not done the same for Ontario. So we've long asked for fairness in terms of how Ontario and Quebec are uniquely positioned with respect to the influx of asylum seekers. 1 in 3, even in Quebec, end up in Ontario as their final destination. So numbers you would see nationally would exclusively address points of entry, not final destination. So Ontario disproportionately is the final destination for many, and are dealing with the challenges. I mean, ultimately, we are not doing dignity to people when we en masse put them in state-sponsored hotels with no access to wraparound supports and services. And so where the provinces concern and where the provinces have united And I just want to make sure, I share very openly with all of you our position on this. So our provincial territorial recommendations to the federal government have been addressing the backlog, because asylum claims take months to adjudicate, and there are significant inabilities to work during that period of time, which causes additional strains on provincial social services. Our second theme is relating to housing settlement, language, and legal supports. We've asked a comprehensive suite of those services, wraparound services to assist individuals, and we have not found meaningful solutions to that to date. We've looked to efficiencies in the system as well, on claims processes. Another theme has been with respect to data sharing. To date, Ontario has requests for data. It's important for me when we're dealing with a vulnerable population to understand the acuities of needs around said vulnerable population. We don't even have that basic data from the federal government. We don't know is someone's level of literacy. We don't know certain fundamental questions around reason for asylum. Are we dealing with gender-based violence? Are we dealing with war and particular traumas of war? So our inability to sort of meet people where they're at and their sort of unique acuities of needs are hampered by just a basic inability to get fundamental data on said persons from the federal government. So we've asked for regular detailed data on the asylum system, including approval rates, source countries, work permit processing times, removal times, pre-claim immigration status, secondary migration data, as I mentioned, on the flow within Canada, and basic acuities of needs as we're able to ascertain that. So we've not been able to get that. So I think the community has every right to have these sort of fundamental questions answered before putting their hands up and saying we would be host to a large influx of asylum seekers. And I think it is incumbent on the federal government to give us that basic data. Again, I'll sort of close by saying, I think together we can work together to find meaningful solutions. Again, Ontario, Canada has broad consensus across the political spectrum on the value of immigration as a grandson of an immigrant. But that has been shattered by the inability of this federal government to manage a system with integrity and to be able to work with their provincial partners on this. So, I think with respect to the concerns the community have here, we're happy to work with you. As you know, I'm somewhat hampered by an inability to get data, and I'm happy to work with Lisa. We've spoken at length, and we will be coming up to Ottawa very soon to seek a meeting with Mayor Sutcliffe and Lisa on this. And I'm happy to be your voice and your community's voice, and alongside Lisa. I think it was an important point on your voice, not Ontario's or Toronto's, but I can share my experience having the opportunity to take on this portfolio. And some of those concerns I've been very open with you on what Ontario is grappling with right now with Mayor Sutcliffe and with our federal partners as well.
Thank you very much, Minister Piccini. I know that you have some important work. Fridays or constituency days. I'm working with my constituents. Now you're going to have to go off and spend some time with yours. I really want to say thank you for really outlining what your ministry's role is. Obviously, it is very difficult without the appropriate data. I think that's provides us with a lot of food for thought as we consider what types of services we're going to need for people coming for different reasons, and making sure that they have a dignified level of support. And I do appreciate, I think the big takeaway today is well, you were able to give us information. Probably the thing that my constituents will be most excited about is the fact that you will be seeking a meeting with Mayor Sutcliffe on this and making sure that City Hall is accountable. So wanted to thank you. I know you're busy. I know we'll see each other next week. When I turn 50 on Tuesday, I'll be hanging out with you. David sometimes makes us meatballs at the office when I have my weekly meatball.
No stereotypes there, but I do love pasta. So
yeah, you're great. Well, listen, thank you very much. We'll get on with the rest of the program, but
thank
let's
you.
chat later
Thanks,
this
Lisa.
afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
I also wanted to provide full disclosure. So while we have the minister that was here, he will be requesting a meeting with Mayor Sutcliffe. I do see on our list, we have one city councillor from downtown who's been opposed to Barrhaven asking for their voice at the City Hall. So it's Stephanie Plant. I suspect this has now already gone to the media, but we welcome her. All of this is transparent. This webinar will be made public, so people's words won't be taken out of context. But if they are, we'll clarify that. Secondly, I do see both of our city councilors have declined to provide their voice to our constituents, but I just wanted to say thank you to Wilson's Low's office for monitoring this as well. So we'll move on now from voices directly from our community. I'm going to turn it over to Jason McDonald, who will chair the panel part. If you have any questions, go into the Q&A or the chat box. Send them along. We'll try to get to as many as possible. Similarly, if you have any questions for Minister Piccini, we'll take those as well, and we will get back to you, okay? So we may not be able to get to them during this webinar, but we will certainly get back to you at some point, and make sure that your voices are heard at City Hall. So Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you to speak a little bit about this, and then to start a panel with Kyla Yilong and Jagdeep. Jagdeep, you can turn your camera back on. Jay, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that, everyone. Hi, my name is Jason McDonald, and I'm a business owner and operator and a property owner, basically adjacent to one of the sites that is being considered for the shelter. As a matter of disclosure, I'm also the chair of the Barrhaven Business Improvement Area, and I've been a part of that phenomenal organization for a little over 15 years. I've been a volunteer with the Barrhaven Food Bank, with the Cenotaph Committee, with the Legion, and many other things, and sponsor a lot of things that happen in the community. I live here. I'm raising my two beautiful daughters here with my gorgeous wife, who really is the reason that my heart beats. And my children go to the school that is in the closest vicinity to one of these sites. The biggest issue that I've had with this whole thing is the matter of disclosure. As we know, typically with any changes to the city, there's public consultation. We've seen more public consultation in regards to stop signs and roundabouts than we have to something that is so impactful to a community. The other issue is that when I've been trying to get clarity and work towards understanding what this was going to be in our community and the impact it was going to be on our community, I had a lot of difficulty getting information. And then it quickly reverted to attacks, to be honest with you. So memes being posted on Twitter when responding to a comment, providing clarity, being talked about in the media. And yet the PIA board had not done anything public, and still to this date has not done anything public. The responses that I was providing were from me personally. The concern that I have being painted, especially being the visual representation that I am. My mother immigrated to Canada at 15 years old, so I'm the son of an immigrant and a proud son of an immigrant. I think this panel and what's happening here is a prime example of what makes Canada so great. We are all immigrants. We don't have the history of Egypt or Austria. We're all brand new. Nobody holds any more sway over the other than we all do. But this has been very troubling. In regards to community participation, my mother was actually the director of the John Howard Society and Youth Employment Services. So my family and I have been involved heavily in community advocating, community supports, working with reformed criminals, troubled youth, as well as the homeless. My father and I also did the construction at the Ottawa Mission and at the Ottawa Food Bank. I actually was the one that drywall taped and mudded and painted the bedrooms at the Ottawa Mission. So it's been very difficult to have the things said about me and my concerns in regards to this. But I know that my moral and my ethics are in the right position of this because it's for the greater good. The city has been exceptionally difficult to deal with, to say the least, in terms of any disclosure, any public consultation. Very much it seems as though it's being steamrolled. The city staff are the ones that will be making the decision, as they were given basically executive authority to make these decisions from our understanding. The city has already begun clear cutting. On Wednesday, I saw city staff at the site doing some clearing, and so I went over and spoke with them. And funnily enough, two of them live in Barrhaven, and one of them, their mother, lives on Larkin here in Barrhaven. And they're very, very concerned about what's going on, but we're told to go and do this. A big indicator for me that we're all united, a majority united in this, is when the Liberal MP and the provincial MPP are saying the same thing. We have a lot of consistency for all of the residents of Barrhaven. The public transparency and consultation has been absolutely non-existent. The city seems to be already actioning their plan. The VIA as a whole had sent a request to the mayor on direction of the board for a meeting. To date, we have not had a response. A follow-up email was sent, and again, we still have not had a response, which is concerning for a business organization that has been fairly highly regarded and a very large contributor overall. The pushback from the local representatives has been very, very difficult. That being said, as Lisa had mentioned earlier, Councillor Wilson Lowe has endeavored to provide as much information as he's been able to receive, and David has echoed that as well too. We did have a meeting with both of them. It was constructive and positive, and we're all trying to work to the best solution. But obviously a tent in a field with no accessibility to mental health support, social support, addiction support, job support, education supports, transit, grocery stores, etc., in a bedroom community doesn't seem like the best solution, especially for the individuals. Our community, as the panel knows, and as a lot of people on this call know, is the definition of diversity, and the growth that has occurred here has been nothing short of amazing. I would suggest that Barrhaven and some of the southern and western suburban areas are really what has supported the city in development charges because of our phenomenal and fantastic growth. And we've maintained a sense of community. And I think that that's very important because it's difficult for an asylum seeker to come here thinking that there's going to be an enhanced quality of life, and yet there's no employment opportunities for them, there's no housing opportunity for them, and there's really not the easily accessible assistance. What also more concerning is the city's disclosure that this possibly will be used as a homeless shelter in an overflow. And I fully understand the discussion about that all of the members of the city need to share in the rising up of our troubled members, but it should be done in a conscientious and with a common sense approach. The assumption that the homeless will abide by a curfew or want to be in a bedroom suburban community, I think is misleading. They're obviously going to go where the most opportunity is, and that traditionally is the urban core, and that's an international thing. In Barrhaven, we've seen a drastic increase in crime, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. Kids kicking in doors, blatant thievery at our stores. The LCBO Loblaws now has to have full-time security. The local Walmart is now considering closing at 7 p.m. due to the theft. These are all very, very concerning. Also, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the large increase in the homeless population. I've had 4 individuals camping out behind my building, and they're good guys. And in fact, they're my evening security crew from the kids from the skate park. You know, they're having a very difficult time. They also have mental health issues that need support. So there's only so much that I and my family and my employees can do to assist them. Reading some of the comments on the petition, and I'm sorry if I'm a bit scatterbrained and jumping all over the place. There's just so much information and details that we don't have, and information that we have been getting. But I think the feedback that we've been getting, that the grassroots petition has been getting, is pretty phenomenal, and speaks volumes about the concerns of what's happening. You know, I think what I can do is, if later, if people wish, I can read some of the messaging from some of the individuals in our community and the concerns that they have. But I think very clearly we're seeing a consensus. The petition in just over a week is at a little over 3,683 signatures, with over 1,100 comments. For me, whenever we've had public engagement, we've never seen it to this level. So it's obviously, this is something that hits quite close to the heart. I think, Lisa, I'll digress from there, and maybe we can start with the panel, or whatever you suggest in terms of next steps.
Yeah, I think maybe if you'd like to introduce the panel, Yilong will just need to put your camera back on, and you can ask them some questions, and they can provide, when you introduce them, a little bit about themselves, why they love Barrhaven, and why it's so important that we be part of this discussion. Again, nobody, and I think you said it clearly, nobody is opposed to welcoming more people in our community. That's what we've been doing for 25 plus years. The question is, how do we do it the right way? And it's not being done the right way. So I will then hand it back to you, Jason, and you and your panel can move along for the next 15, 20 minutes.
Thanks, Lisa. And to that point, the reality is that Barrhaven's immigrant population is 32.5%, whereas the rest of the city of Ottawa is at 25%. We also have many different organizations that assist with the asylum seekers, and with the downtrodden, and with the homeless, such as Matthew House, etc. But I'll take this time to ask Kayla Martin to introduce herself, and thank you, Kayla, for joining us. Kyla, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, Jason. Thank you to Lisa for putting this together, and thank you for Minister Piccini for his comments. I grew up in Barrhaven. We moved here when I was 4 years old, and I went away for a little while, went to university, lived closer into downtown, and my husband and I actually made our way back to Barrhaven in 2016. And one of the reasons why we did that was the safety of the neighborhood. He traveled a lot at that time that we decided to move back. And one of the reasons why we came here was safety. So, you know, we didn't have children at the time, but it was a place that I was feeling very safe if he was out of the home for a few nights a week on a business trip, or if I needed to take the dogs for a walk in the evening. I was never worried about, walking at night, or if I ever needed help or something like that. We're a very safe community, and there's a lot of people that would be willing to help you. Since that time, I've seen a lot of things change, vehicle theft being one of them. Now, if I don't put my car in the garage at night, I kind of lay awake at night thinking, well, maybe I should go and get up and actually move it just in case, because, a lot of the residents in our neighborhood have been worried about that. We've seen a lot of car thefts. And that's just, one of the things that has been happening, here specifically in the neighborhood that I live in. So hearing all of this and the lack of transparency that we've been seeing, and also the potential for it being an overflow for homeless shelters, is something that's really concerning to me, both for my personal safety, and then looking at, what kind of neighborhood that would be for my son to grow up in. So, as Jason had said, the schools are in very close proximity. We don't know who potentially would be moving in here. Have they been vetted from a safety standpoint, from a mental health capacity, and then what kind of resources do we have to offer them? And that's, I think, what's really concerning. It seems inhumane, for lack of a better word, to put people in an area where we don't have the proper resources for them, to have them in a tent type of shelter with the type of winters that we have, and to say that there's really not a lot in terms of job opportunities or transportation or healthcare and things like that in this area to support them. It's sort of a failed promise, I think, to say we're offering you a better life, but there's all of these fences around you that says you can't actually have the resources that you need in order to change your outcome. So I think it's really challenging from our perspective as residents, but also to see what these people have potentially gone through and why they're seeking asylum, and then to put them in a situation where they're not getting the resources and support that they need. Oh, you're muted again, Jason.
It's like the pandemic never happened, Jason.
Right, exactly. You'd think we'd be used to it by now. Thank you very much, Kyla. Really appreciate it. And I echo your thoughts as well, too. My children walk to school right by where the proposed asylum is, and we're already having some challenges with them being approached and accosted at the Longfields bus station. I'll now turn to Jagdeep Prahar, my esteemed competitor and colleague, and I think this speaks volumes about the community that first off, that we have amazing real estate agents here in Ottawa. They're not slime balls. They are very much caring about their community, and I think this is indicative of that. And I'm very grateful that the JAG has taken the time to join us. JAG, please.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Jagdeep Prahar, and I, without even saying it, I can tell that I'm an immigrant, and I came to Canada in '96, and since then I'm living in Barrhaven. No issues having immigrants coming to our community. When I came to Canada, Barrhaven has about 27,000 people, and we have grown to almost close to 100,000. And needless to say that there are a lot of immigrants who have come in there, and they have flourished and bought real estate and jobs and everything. So nothing against immigrants coming to Barrhaven. But here the situation, as I understand, is different. I've heard the minister speaking, and Jason said a lot about it, and Lisa MacLeod. I'm not going to repeat all of that again. I share the same sentiments, but based on the limited knowledge I have gained about this Sprung Shelter, I think something is not clear. The city is not being transparent on this. On one side, we are hearing that it is for the asylum seekers. It is for the refugees. But on the other hand, we are all hearing that the number of asylum seekers are going down exponentially, which means in a year or two, we may not need a new shelter or a facility to handle the asylum seekers. And the city of Ottawa, all the ministries of federal, provincial, I don't know where the money is coming from. I've heard that it's more than $50 to $75 million being spent in this shelter structure. And as a common sense, this shelter is not going to be needed for a long time. So that means, as the rumor is, that this will be used for homeless shelter or addiction-related services or whatnot. So my question is very simple, that we have this problem of this immigration and housing and everything, because when our governments decided to invite that many people, we did not plan. When now we are trying to have this facility here, let's call spade a spade. It is not going to be asylum seekers tent. It's going to be a homeless shelter. If it is going to be homeless shelter, we already have enough problems in Barrhaven. And all the residents of Barrhaven, if you ask them, they can tell, as I just mentioned, 10 years ago, what was the situation, what is now. If anybody has ever called in the recent past, a 911 call, they know how much time it takes for the police to show up. It's not that the police is bad, it's that they don't have resources. How many people are assigned to Barrhaven? Cut the story short. We have this problem here. We already have enough problems in Barrhaven. When we are having a shelter which is going to be used by the homeless people, what kind of facility, amenities are there? What kind of cities resources are allocated for this purpose? My answer, based on my understanding, is none, which means when this thing situation comes, will be a lot of chaos and lawlessness and a lot of issues for many years before the governments will act and start putting the resources, trying to put the bandage on it. We are at a point right now where, number one, Barrhaven does not need a shelter where the resources are to help the homeless people. Barrhaven does not need a shelter where, even for the short term, asylum seekers and refugees need to be addressed. It does not make sense to spend that much money in the middle of the community and impacting the real estate aspect, community aspect, law enforcement aspect, and many other aspects impacted for no reason. These shelters should be at a place where we already have the facilities, amenities to cater to those kind of demographics. So I think either the city government or the governments, they are not being transparent. There is no consultation with the community who is going to be impacted. I think, for lack of words, we are being taken for a ride.
Thank you so much, Jag. I agree. And to augment your comments in regards to the policing, this week there was muggings. Now I know obviously that these situations happen all over the city, but the difference is in the allocation of resources. So as Jagdeep has pointed out, at any given time in Barrhaven currently, we have possibly 1 to 2 police officers for a population over 100,000. The city of Kingston has a police force. Where the current shelters are in the urban environment, there is much more, obviously, a higher level of security with police and with organizations, Shepherds of Good Hope, Salvation Army, etc. So, Jag, that is a very valid concern to say the least. And then, of course, is the cost. What is this costing the city to do this? And this structure, although it's called temporary, is 25 to 40-year lifespan. And is it even a dignified way for anybody to reside? Are there windows? Is there independence, etc.? But I will digress and I'll introduce Yeling Ma. Yeling, can you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yilong. Yeah, thank you so much. Gave me the chance to speak today, or asking question today. As a mother with 2 kids as a resident in Barrhaven, as someone who worked with the Chinese community in Ottawa for many years, I feel like I have the responsibility to represent our concern about the potential change in Barrhaven. As we know, Barrhaven is home to it's home for largest Chinese community in Ottawa. Many families have chosen to live in here because they offer safe, family-friendly environment with growing business and education opportunity. I just want to ensure that any decision made priority the well-being of everyone in our community, include our Chinese residents. As Jadid mentioned, we know here is limited police resource in Barrhaven. If we got lucky, Barrhaven has 2 officer assigned to cover this large area, which is far from enough to meet the needs for our growing community. If we bring more individuals into this area, especially those without employment, it's likely to increase the demand on our police force, resulting in higher crime rate and more frequent incidents. One of the key issues is the safety. Many, as everybody know, as many business owners here, include those from Chinese community, already feel that safety is ongoing challenge, especially with recent increase breaking in and thief. If shelter is introduced without additional support, they could heighten security concern and impact the peace of mind that has made Barrhaven as perfect area for millions. So, you know, like a lots of business owner, we are like already worried even during the day. Additional shelter could make this worse. And everyone wants our business community to feel secure. And especially as a mother, I understand like most parents, like all the parents, we know we don't have enough public facility for our current residents. Right now, if parents want to like assign their kids for swimming class, volleyball class, or other activity, we face long waiting lists. Our community center are already full. Additional more people without a new source will make this problem worse for everyone. So I cannot believe this is gonna happen. I don't think the homeless shelter is a good idea for Barrhaven. Our community doesn't have enough facility, safety, or police resource to handle it. We need to solve those problems first to protect the quality of our life for everyone, every resident here right now. Yeah, that's that's what I thought. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ilong. I really appreciate it. And to that point, that's part of the confusion as well, too, is that there have been 3 councillors that have said that they would gladly take this structure in the urban core, and yet this is happening. We don't know how they've determined scoring on the site selection. We don't understand how the ranking has been. I know that people have been asking for that since July. I'm being told to wait a week, a couple more weeks. The other very concerning thing is the amount of money that the city is spending on this. They've hired a third-party consultancy agency, Stantec, to evaluate these sites and to give a report to city staff and to council. And of course, the concern is that council or city staff will use that as sort of the scapegoat to say, well, you know, we consulted with this, independent third party to do this evaluation, and these are the results that it's come back with. So we're very curious about the costs that the city is incurring in regards to this, why there seems to be such an aggressive push to put this into Barrhaven. It's very concerning from a taxpayer's perspective, for especially owning multiple properties, operating the business, and all of us having children in the vicinity. Lisa, I think it would now be a good time to go to questions, or is there anything else that?
Well, I just wanted to follow up because I hadn't considered this, but Yilong and Jagdeep both mentioned it, and I've known them both a long time through their respective communities. And, you know, one of the things we're always dealing with in the legislature, and we've tried, Jan Harder and I, as we built Barrhaven, wanted to always make sure, and Jan did a lot longer than me, right? I don't even think we'd be in this situation if Jan were still our counselor. Like, honestly, I think she would have been a strong voice. But, one of the things that we really tried to do was build a strong, diverse community where it was just a given that people would be, supportive of one another. And then you mentioned something, Yilong, about what, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but it made me think of anti-Asian bigotry and racism. And then I thought there's a lot of stuff going on in the Indo-Canadian community too that I know Jagdeep has been facing. And that has become, there's been a resurgence in that type of hate. And you brought it up, and I want you to just explore that a little bit more. I do know that there's a number of our friends from the Chinese community on this webinar right now, and I'd be interested to hear a little bit about the racism you're experiencing and how we can better confront it as a community. And Jagdeep, if you can follow along after Yilong, I'd appreciate that.
During the summer, I believe there is like a really, really big hate crime happened in Barrhaven. So this is on the big news. So I saw those news personally from the newspaper, from the internet. I personally visiting this family from Korea, and they've been like the neighbor threw the trash, garbage, like tried to hate them, like smash their window door, like doing since they're moved in. So that's happen a lot. I've been talking to the police resource, like some police officer about this. So we've been like, from the video I saw it, they said, go back China. They say, hate China, hate something like it. This is really cannot accept. So I'm feel so sorry for the, those family, like they're from Korea, but they're Asian. So as the homeless, as people mentioned, if we have a shelter there, if we don't provide a well education system to them, we're gonna more facing like more the people not well educated. They don't understand the multicultural, how important for the community development. So it's a lot of things we need considering, like before we build up something, like bring more going things to Barrhaven. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Yilong, and thank you for raising that, because Canada is a multicultural country. We are a community of communities, as the former Prime Minister Joe Clark would say, and that is one of the things that I know when Jan and I were looking at building the roads, bridges, transit, when we were trying to get healthcare and education resources into the community, that was one of the things that was driving force for us. And I want to thank you. And Jagdeep, I know you've been in the community a long time. You have seen your fair share of these things, and you've been a strong leader, and you're on multiple boards across the city, the Shaw Center, Rogers Center, Airport Authority. You've been a leader in the entire Ottawa community.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm here in Canada in 1996, and when I came to Canada, I would say with full gratitude that the Canada provided me resources to integrate into Canadian society. Canadians welcomed me into this country with open arms, where I can practice my religion, practice my culture, and still contribute to the society. And I've been fortunate enough that I was able to have my master's degree in computers in Ottawa. And after that, when I joined real estate about 20 years in 2 weeks, I never had any of those issues. And when I am seeing those issues happening on the streets now, I try to, instead of just complaining, try to understand why those issues have happened. And one of the reasons, which with my limited knowledge, I can see, is that because when people before came, they had the opportunity here to integrate and learn from the Canadian system and adopt those. Now, the number of immigrants who are entering the country, they are not integrating with the Canadian society. They are not learning from the local systems because they are coming in so many at a time. And because they are living in their own cultures, in the old groups. I don't want to use the word ghettos, but their own circles, and all of them coming, and they don't have any opportunities to learn. I think they are resorting to all those lawlessness activities. They don't have a place to live. They don't have a place to work. And they came with high expectations. I have seen doctors, engineers driving taxis and doing those jobs. We are not providing them the opportunities to show their skills. I have a senior surgeon from Egypt, and he came here with a family to contribute, and he's one of the leading surgeons in Saudi Arabia Hospital. So he's one of the guys who give lectures to all over the Arab world and the medical science. But our system does not allow him to work. So his family is here and has gone back. So we have certain issues which we are not able to address. That's why when I mentioned earlier, we invited the immigrants without thinking that what they will do, where they will live, do we have enough resources? And they are coming from different cultures. I'm talking from India, yes, but they're coming from all different countries with different cultures. We have not had the opportunity at the government level, at different levels of government. I don't know where the buck stops. I don't want to blame any individual government, but we have, by ignoring those facts, we have created this monster. We have now so many people, and the lawlessness and all those issues have gone so big now, and we are even talking about those things now. Now, I'm glad to hear that when you mentioned that, and Jason mentioned that they have put a huge stop on it, and the number of students coming to the country, they have reduced significantly. I'm not against people coming to the country, but at least we should be prepared to handle it before we right. And if we don't do that, then all these issues will bypass. Those will happen.
Thanks, Jagdeep. I think you just made a really good point, and this is becoming an issue now of an immigration debate that we know now is happening in the Federal House of Commons. When our community is a welcoming one, we're simply suggesting that the city has fallen flat on transparency and accountability, and as a result of refusing to provide us with information or an area to air our concerns, they're actually breeding more disinformation. And then they, of course, it's such a young council, and you can't really blame them for not really understanding the real politics of this. And again, make no mistake, I mean, it is the voice of the people. Vox Pop is what a democracy is about. And when they start to explain, they're losing. And unfortunately, without credible voices coming to speak to us today, that's the difficulty. This debate will go into different directions. So thank you for raising that. Kyle, I just wanted to go to you before I go to Jason to wrap up, but you have been a longtime resident, but I think the bigger issue now is you are now a brand new mother. So you're looking at healthcare and education in a totally different lens than you would have a year ago. And, you know, with the pressures you already have, wait times to get into this, that, or the next thing, it becomes very difficult. I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about that, because, you know, a baby is a baby, and they need support. And what can you provide us for, what we call our place Baby Haven? And we've been doing that for 20 years. But if you could tell us a little bit about some of the resources that you need and some of the challenges that you're finding as brand new mother, we'd really appreciate that.
Yes, of course. I would say the first concern that I have, and this sort of came up when I was pregnant, was finding a family doctor for my son. I'm lucky enough that my family doctor was willing to take him on, but he has told me that he's planning to retire in the next couple of years. And if I could find someone else, please do so, because he's basically staying on right now, just from an ethical perspective of he knows he doesn't have a replacement. He's, I would say, in his 70s, but he feels he has a responsibility to his patients to, stay on as long as he can because of our current stress on our system. So, healthcare is first and foremost and number one concern. Babies need to be seen by doctors. They need vaccinations. They need that regular follow-up care. So, I'm very grateful that I have a family doctor, but I'm very certain that many new moms and dads in our neighborhood probably don't have that same, opportunity to have their babies seen regularly. So, healthcare first and foremost is very concerning, especially given that one of the pieces of land was being proposed as an urgent care facility. I think we desperately need that in Barrhaven. We look at how much traffic we have right now. If we do have an emergency and we need to get to the Queens White Carleton Hospital, for example, that's potentially a 30 to 40-minute drive, depending on what time of day you go. You need to go to that facility. So, very important that we have some type of healthcare focus here. The other one is education and daycare. I'm on a waiting list for daycares for next year. I was told that I probably signed up for the wait list late because I did it at 12 weeks pregnant. I should have done it earlier, which sounds, a little bit crazy to think that, he wasn't even, we didn't even know he was a boy or anything like that. We didn't have a name, but we needed to reserve a spot for him that early. So, we are very stressed here and pushed to our limits in terms of what we have capacity for as a community. And not to sound ungrateful or uncharitable, but I do think it is important that we take care of our residents and make sure that we are offering our residents who are taxpayers, who need to work, who need to have childcare available for their children so that we can continue to work and pay our taxes and contribute to the community and have that ability. So I think that also needs to be looked at as well, making sure that we are taking care of our own as well as having the resources to properly, as Jagdeep was saying, help new Canadians be able to integrate as well. We need to have those resources for them. But if we're all stretched so thin that we're not able to do so, then that's, another challenge that we have. Something that I do want to sort of mention is I've been writing to our local councillors and members of parliament and MPPs as well. And one of the things that was sort of concerning to me on the city side is I had been writing to Councillor Hill, and I had mentioned the local petition that had been put together by the Moms organization, and he had told me that he was unwilling to share it and disperse it in the newsletter that he writes weekly. So I'm not sure what's happening from a city level. I know he says that he opposes it, but I'm just feeling a little uncertain as far as what's going on in the behind the scenes at City Hall and what's being disclosed to us, because, Lisa, you were the one that actually had made me aware of it through your newsletter, and I thank you for that. I've shared it with as many people as I can, and I really feel as a community, Barrhaven needs to band together. We need to really work together and join hands and try to tackle this, and seeing that sort of unwillingness from our city councillors makes me concerned that we're not organized in our efforts to make our voices heard.
Thanks, Kali, because here's the thing you talked about a little bit with Jagdeep and Yilong said, it's really about the lack of transparency at City Hall and understanding what the process is for us to get it out. The other thing I think that you raised that is important, and I didn't raise it, is I am working with the Queens White Carleton Hospital for a site for urgent care clinic in Barrhaven. And we have eyed the Highbury site as a possible location given its proximity to people who need those services. And I forget which day it is in the next week or two. I think it's at the 30th or the 31st, where I'm meeting with the Ministry of Health and Dr. Faulkner, who's the president and CEO of the Queens White Carleton Hospital, to bring that. So using the levers that I have an opportunity to bring into our community, as I have in the past 19 years, that's one of the things that I wanted to do. Really glad you raised it. Jason, I want you to sort of wrap up, then I'll wrap it up. And we heard a lot of great things here today, and I want to send it over to you, and then I'll just say a few last words.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Carla. I completely agree with what you're saying. I didn't want to mention anything about the QCH because I don't want to speak out of turn. But being a very large supporter of the QCH, I had heard rumors. I had asked Lisa briefly, and she had said that she's working on it, which to me means she is working on it. The other thing is that location at Highbury and Greenbank, was first off, it's supposed to be allocated for LRT, for a garage to support our future light rail system, which of course we now know that we won't be getting for any time soon. Exactly like you're saying, Carla, the transportation issues that we're suffering through in Barrhaven in terms of transit are substantial, the services, healthcare, etc. I do want to clarify that this asylum, from what we understand, will be first for single individuals. We're assuming males because we can't fathom or see that they would be putting single males and females into a sprung shelter together. The other thing is that the Legion had requested the opportunity to purchase or utilize the property, and the city declined them. So we declined our veterans, but here we are, supporting potential asylum seekers and whatnot. It is a bad taste. In clarification with regard to Councillor Hill, Councillor Hill has been engaged. We have had many conversations. They have admittedly not been fruitful. Disclosure to a degree has been an issue. That being said, I do understand that Councillor Hill has his particular strategy that he's potentially utilizing to try and do what's best for Barrhaven. He was not comfortable to say that he did not want this, but as more information has come to light, Councillor Hill did say last week that he does not want the shelter and doesn't believe that it's a good solution for Ottawa as a whole. Councillor Wilson Lowe has been very humble and gregarious. If any of you have seen his newsletter, he tried to fall on the sword and provided a mea culpa in not having brought this to the community earlier. We have been begging since July to bring this to the community. We just wanted to understand the process, how they came to this, how they're coming to this decision, scoring, the metrics that are being used, the justifications and value of the site location, and we have not been able to get any of that. So we've got quite a few concerns, and I think they've been all articulated fairly well here. I'm reading some of the questions, Lisa, and they're all along the lines of what we're all concerned about. So clearly there's a lot of unity within the community. I'm very happy to see, I have a note here that the Chinese community in Barrhaven established a group called the Barrhaven Residents Against Sprung Shelter. And the petition has also been well published and completed. So it's great to see the citizens of our community advocating and jumping into the role of supporting and communicating with our community, but that's not what the citizens' job is to do. It is the job of our elected officials to keep us abreast of what is going on, and to listen to our feedback and to listen to the community's concerns and whatnot. Again, there's more consultation over a roundabout than there has been about this homeless shelter. And to Dag's point earlier, Lisa, it has been communicated to me that the asylum backlog is moving very quickly, to the tune that they think it will be worked through within the next 6-month period. So that raises the question, is there still an emergency, an asylum and refugee emergency? And then, of course, yesterday with the federal government's announcement, with Trudeau coming out and acknowledging that there is a problem and that they've made mistakes, it seems to me that everybody's on the right side of this except for a few, and that's a bit concerning. So I'm so grateful for everybody joining. Lisa, I'm really grateful for you asking me to join. Again, the opinions that I've expressed and the things that I'm expressing are from me personally. They're not speaking on behalf of the Barrhaven Business Improvement Area, which is a phenomenal organization that works very, very hard to support the local businesses, the communities and whatnot, because they are the sponsors of almost every event here in the community. So I want to thank all of the businesses for their continued support to the BIA, and also to Lisa and Chandra, the Liberal MP, who have been supportive in our concern about this. And I hope that I've mentioned earlier that I had a meeting with Chandra, and he was very understanding, very supportive, and he connected with Lisa And so seeing that community unity from our elected officials at that level it's very reassuring, and it makes me very grateful that they can bridge the gaps and the divides from the different parties. So Lisa, thank you for your work, and Chandra for your work. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I do appreciate it. To Yilong, Kyla, and Jagdeep, I really appreciate you bringing your firsthand experience as residents here. You're right, I have had some communication with our federal member of parliament. We disagree on a lot of stuff. We've always accepted one another's positions as our own, but we did put Barrhaven first in this. I think we're both, I can speak for probably everybody, a bit disappointed with how this has played out at City Hall. So let's just recap everything. We all seem to be aligned in the community, and we all agree that City Hall has really not provided enough transparency, communications, or accountability to our residents. The fact that this is our first public forum that I had to put together is, I think, speaking volumes on how my constituents have been treated. We now know
Shocking.
It is shocking. The fact that this site was declined for our Legion, which has been trying to grow for the past decade. And just let's put this into perspective. It was the first Legion created in 25 years in Canada. And then when it became the first Legion after that period of time to be created, became one of the highest Legions membership in the entire country. So they're very dedicated. I'm just shocked to hear that, but I think it's been confirmed by former Councillor Jan Harder. And we know that I'm working right now for the QCH. So if it's not good enough for our veterans, it's not good enough for our patients, why is it good enough for people that are coming to our country that cannot in some cases integrate without great supports that we don't have there? So lots of questions the City Hall has to answer, as we mentioned, because we feel we haven't heard from City Hall, and my colleague, the Honourable David Piccini, Ontario's Immigration Minister and Skills and Development Minister, has not heard from our city. And hasn't got the data. I'm pleased to say that this is one of the big takeaways, that Minister Piccini will be requesting a meeting with our mayor. Having said that, if you're here and you're listening and you have a pen to write down, the mayor's phone number is 613-580-2496. Again, if you would like to call the mayor's office, I think that's the only place we're going to be able to get support, is 613-580-2496. All we really do know is what has been published, and that has been few and far between. We know that 3,600 people have signed the petition on notent.ca. We now know that the Chinese community in Barrhaven has also got a petition. So congratulations to them. And I will say this, to people who decide that they want to fact check my constituents for having concerns because there has been limited information, I would encourage you to fact check your own self. If you are a politician in another part of the city, every minute you are trying to debunk Yilong, Kyla, Jagdeep, Jason, our BIA, you are spending 1 minute away from your constituents who expect you to be doing your job. If your entire day is being consumed by speaking to the media to delegitimize business owners in Barrhaven, new mothers in Barrhaven, immigrants to our community, you are not doing your job. That's my job. My job is to stand up and defend them. And I have always, for 19 years, made sure that my voice was loud and my voice was clear when I've been at Queen's Park. I always knew who sent me to do my job. And my job was never to go line by line by line to debunk what was happening in Vanier or in Alta Vista. And if your entire raison d'etre is to undermine the people that sent me to Queen's Park and right now are asking me to be their voice at City Hall, then your priorities are wrong. And so to my constituents who are on here today, several hundred, I'm not going to let up. I know that I announced that I wasn't running again back in September, and I'm not running again. So I have a lot of time to make sure that your voice is heard in every platform it needs to be heard. I will always be your voice, whether I'm a member of provincial parliament or not. And that's what this is about today. This is our community. I am a member of it. You are all leaders. I just happen to have a title. So with that, again, if you are very opposed to this, notent.ca, started by a group of Barrhaven mothers. And if you want to speak to the mayor, 613-580-2496. I'll look forward to meeting him with Minister Piccini, and I look forward to seeing you all in the community in short order. Thank you all very much, and we'll keep you up to date if there's anything more to talk about. Cheers.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Take care.